over on downs, you just don't see it in the stats. So those guys have done a great job. Different challenge this week than what they're going to see. A little bit different protection and action and all that. So we still want to be as productive at the quarterback in the pass game as we've been.
Over the last decade or so, obviously Boise State has been kind of one of the gold standards, the team that kind of has a target on its back in the conference. Those teams that beat you last year in the Mountain West finished up 3-10, I think it was. Utah State celebrates like it's the Super Bowl on their field. New Mexico takes pictures. I mean, from your perspective, being on either side of it, do you believe in letdowns after big games?
Yes, certainly that happens, and we're all human. And I think sometimes you can get caught up a little bit. Certainly, because you see that with not just those teams you mentioned. I think you see that in sports in general. When there's a big win and all of a sudden you think this team is on this next step or this roll, and all of a sudden it's a negative the next week. I think that's the hard thing. That's why it's not about always the underdog that just comes in there and beats a team, and all of a sudden now they're the team. It's those teams that sustain success over and over. The Alabamas, Clemson's. You watch those teams and they have all the pressure on them every game that you shouldn't lose this game. You should beat them by 50 points every time. And if you don't have a perfect drive, what the heck's going on? Coaches don't know what they're doing. That's a lot harder than just showing up and being the underdog and going out there and just cutting it loose. And I think that's where good teams are able to sustain each game, the level of play. And so, I don't know those teams. I don't know the whole makeup of them. I don't know what was said afterwards and all that. I know that we didn't win the game. That's really all I cared about after that. So what they did, I really didn't pay attention to it. It's more about us, and certainly this game is the same way. It's always about us. If the only team I'm ever concerned about is the Broncos when they go in there. Are we ready to play? Are we going to be consistent? Are we going to have all three phases out there playing the way we're capable of playing? That's what matters.
The special teams obviously been such a big part of what you guys do around here. What would you see on the kick return? I know the ref maybe got in the way, and then on the onside kick, I mean, was it just perfectly placed, or was there something different that you could have done there?
Yeah, two things. The ref got the Hammer Award this week, so we allowed to go back for the game. They did a nice job. One thing we said against Oregon State, if their returners get a chance and an opportunity to get started, it's going to be hard to stop them. We knew that going in. That number 6 was pretty special. I think a lot of teams would take him and put him back there. What we had in that situation, we had a couple personnel changes in there that made a difference. And really, when it comes down to it, pure hustle on that play right there. We got out hustled, and they got us into position where they fit us up. They made their blocks, and they did it just right, and he got a head start. And when you get a chance to go one-on-one with the kicker, and you're that type of player, you got a head start, that's exactly what happens. That can't happen. That's on punt return. It could be on any type of return when you give a guy a chance like that to get started. As far as the bunt, yeah, I went back. We worked and work on that and that exact same one. As a matter of fact, Coach Riddle was like, "It's coming," because we just knew it was coming, and we just froze there just a fraction of a second, and it was as good as it gets. I went back there, and you're upset about it that we didn't get it. You're kind of watching it. You worked on it. You spent all this time. You're just waiting for it. We're going to get the ball right there, and then you watch it happen. You're kind of like, all right, how do we do that? All right, when it's all said and done, we got the win, and now you're kind of breaking it down, going, all right, how can we do something like that? Because he nailed it and did a really good job of it. But the disappointing thing is that's something you work on and it happens. You want to, like Chaz did on the onside kick, you want to attack that ball, you want to come up on it, and you want to be aggressive. And they were doing a good job, and I think the biggest thing, his approach on there, he didn't really give it away. So that was one. You go back, and it's easy to have the clicker in your hand and second guess. But you look at it, and you're going, all right, in the moment, pretty good job by them.
How would you kind of assess how Brett has played this season? And I know obviously as you said, the second half maybe isn't up to snuff. What have you noticed maybe What's different for him in these second halves?
I don't think it's him. I think it's really, it's everybody. And again, now we've built these leads, in the first 2 quarters as well. We've kind of come out and attacked, and a combination of maybe trying some new things, a combination of, all right, what do you think is going to happen when, the Broncos are up and they're making adjustments, and we're kind of looking at, all right, what should we do? And you got to give credit to the teams we've played. They've made adjustments. Their kids have stepped up. Those are 2 Pac-12 teams that their backs were against the wall. They're not just going to fold on you. And that's the one thing about those teams. They don't fold. And so they're going to fight back. I think Brett's been pretty good. I still think at the quarterback position, I told him this, and I told every quarterback I've coached, Peyton Manning didn't play the game even long enough to master it. I mean, you just that quarterback position, he's the best, and he'd probably still tell you there's so many things that he could have been better at or learned or whatever. And so, every game is different. Every defense poses different challenges. They're trying to mess with you on coverages. They know Brett's smart. They know that he prepares. So now he's going to see a lot of variety, and he certainly has seen that. And I think one of the better plays in that game is when he looked at one read, they took it away. He slid in the pocket, stepped up, and found Spurbeck right over the middle. That's part of his game now that I thought in that particular moment was elevated and gave him confidence. He hadn't really been in that situation where he had to step up. Now he's on the move, and now he just finds a guy with his eyes down the field. So you're just waiting for those moments, and all of a sudden he did it. And he executed it well, so now in his mind is, all right, this happens again, I've got answers here. Or he could have took off and run too and probably been close.
I was asking about Chaz Anderson, and I know he has had a couple of big runs, but I just noticed on a couple of his big runs this year, Chaz has kind of had a couple of big blocks, and I believe he had the one that kind of sealed the edge or whatever on the 70-yard touchdown run. He hasn't had any like the huge electrifying catches that we're kind of used to him, but he's kind of doing some small things. You mentioned the onside kick even.
Yeah, he is. Chaz is more of a complete player, than he was even last year, and a lot of it has to do with just blocking. We ask our wide receivers, they run the little bubbles and the RPO stuff, and then we're going to ask him to go line up and go block a safety or block a corner. And on that play, he actually kind of ran a little bit of a route, came back in, folded in, hit the safety, got banged off of him, turned around and banged in the corner. I mean, he was basically a pinball, but he was knocking into 2 guys and just slowing them down, and J-Mac got around the corner. But those guys know, when we run the football, you're going to have to go in there and sacrifice blocking. We've always said that to the wide receivers. You didn't come here to block, but when you do, we're going to be really good at it, which is going to give us an opportunity, hopefully, in the pass game if we do a better job. But I think all those guys are unselfish. I think that's one thing about this team. It's an unselfish team. We're not always perfect. We don't coach perfect. We don't execute perfect, but we're unselfish, and guys give it up. And they understand momentum and when something needs to happen. And if they have a chance to be a part of it, they're going to do it.
When you look at Utah State's defense this year, how do they stack up with, say, Oregon State, Washington State? How do they stack up with themselves from last year?
Yeah, well, they lost, lost 2 guys, a few guys to the NFL. I don't see a big drop-off, not just with the way they play. As far as how they compare to the teams we've played, in certain areas, better. And certainly, from what I've seen on tape, D-line does a very good job. They're active. They're going to move, and they're going to be loud when they do that. And they're going to make it a big production when they do that. And linebackers now can bring it. They're physical, downhill players. Safeties seem to be active in the run game, and especially number 2. It's hard to say now, but he was a guy that was all over the field, I think very savvy, understood how offenses were trying to attack him. And I think the corners have played very well. So I don't see a whole lot of difference. I think they're still aggressive. I think they're still productive in what they're trying to do with the defense. And certainly, we played some good defenses, and here's another one.
What's impressed you most to David Moa's start to this season, and also how exciting is it realizing he's really just scratching the surface of